Georgie Lamo, please go ahead.
Yes, we queried my actions are my only true belongings, and how we would interpret that.
The certainty of karma.
Mm. Mm.
So I was back in Ireland recently, and I come from a family of undertakers, and my brother was it's a phrase I hadn't heard before. He said, "There's no pockets in a funeral shroud," and I find that sits really well with me actually as I think about it. You take nothing, nothing. So I just like that idea, the tailor going, "Yep, no need for a pocket in this one." Um, So, I mean, there are so many things that we think we're taking with us, or even the fact that we don't think we're going to die at all. So, um, yeah, all of the seeds that we're sowing, moment by moment by moment, are the only guaranteed thing that we will take with us in the mind stream. I'm saying all of this as, this is the theory, and
Yes.
it's the extent of which we can recognize first of all investigate and see if that makes sense. And so this is the discernment that's needed for us to look at our own minds. And as Venerable Rabina often says, it just comes down to it's either a delusion or a virtue. And so our capacity to discriminate is really, really important, because if we don't really know the intention behind our actions, it might all look really good. It might, or it might look really bad, but it's actually, we could be doing a little bit of wrathful compassion as well. But be careful with that one. Yeah, it's a lot of wisdom and skillful means needed. What else did you say about it when you were talking about it, Georgia Lama?
Yes, we did talk about karma, and that was our interpretation. So I was thinking, and I love the very first thing you said, the certainty of karma.
Yeah.
And that just really captures that is the one thing. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, and with that certainty, as I said too, like it needs precision in the same way. Like an analogy that really helps me is uh, just gardening. You've got these tiny seeds, many, 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 many tiny seeds, but you need to be very discerning and capable of identifying which ones are poisons and which ones are nutritious. Because we're planting, 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 and the consequences are we'll be eating them later. So if we didn't have that discrimination, we just go, they all look great, they all look fantastic, I'll pop them all in, have a lovely salad later. But if it's, yeah, so it really is the devil's in the detail, as they say. So
I struggled a bit with the word belongings. That's what I wasn't sure about, but now I feel like it's kind of like responsibility, might be kind of
yeah,
a
yeah,
good word to put
yeah,
in
that's it. Yeah, exactly. And one thing that I love with that concept of responsibility too, and again I'll quote Venerable Urbina on this one. It's one I think of a lot. It's deadly serious, and it's as light as a feather. So maybe like a tightrope walker, way up high, and that's deadly serious. And they are literally as light as a feather. There's no added tension or stress or freaking out, because if you do, then you'll make a mess of it. So finding that balance, it's not easy. Okay, I'm just reading. It's good to remember these. They will keep me focused on good karma. Yeah. My heart feels so full, such gratitude to this moment, change and death. It binds us to every other being who's lived, is living, will live. This awareness has helped to make me feel less alone. Yeah, that's beautiful. That universal sorrow that we were talking about in that poem too. Yeah. A very moving experience for me, especially the remembrance of the fact that my actions alone see me through. and how that empowers me to move forward with strength and resilience, however difficult the past has been. Lovely, thanks, Riti. Yeah, they are beautiful. They're very powerful, and I think doing them in a group and hearing them again and again too is a very. It just, yeah, maybe also as one of you just said, like it's that recognition that we're speaking to the truth, the universal truth for all of us. So we're sharing it. Yeah, kinship in it. Okay, so we'll move on. How are we doing for time? Yeah, so we'll just go through this, a little teaching from, a little and deep and profound teaching from Mingyur Rinpoche. And here is self and others. Look at that.
Delightful.
And that's kind of how we are, aren't we? At least I look at it and go, yep, that's me over there, that little red thing. With this idea, it's like, I don't know, that I'm separate and they're all having a good time, or they're not, or I'm in or I'm not. And so, yeah, it's really, and thinking back to His Holiness the Dalai Lama talking about us as social animals, and interbeing. This is how we see it, but on appearances are deceptive. So this is from Jetsuma's book, again, The Heroic Heart. And this is one of the verses. If one does not conquer one's own hatred, the more one fights outer enemies, the more they will increase. Therefore, with the armies of loving kindness and compassion, to tame one's own mind is the practice of a bodhisattva. So I find that line so powerful, the armies of loving kindness and compassion, because it's so easy for us to beat ourselves up and to, as we do recognize and identify these inner enemies, we have this, oh, I'm so bad, I'm awful, it's just adding more delusion, more affliction, more anger on top. But the real armies that we need are loving kindness and compassion. And so it's the only sane response to our inner delusions, as we see them, as we recognize them. The only sane thing to do is to go, oh, there you are. Yeah, I recognize you. Like you would a little kid, little tiny baby having a tantrum. Oh yeah, I recognize that one. And just love. And be curious. I think, yeah. To assemble these armies, this is Jetsuma, to assemble these armies of loving kindness and compassion, we start by befriending ourselves. As the Buddha recommended, loving kindness and compassion should first be sent to ourselves. A lot of our anger that is directed towards others stems from our initial anger towards ourselves, and we just don't notice it. It happens so quickly. First, we have to cultivate peace within ourselves. And that's a peace that's there no matter what's, it doesn't mean, I have to get rid of all of it's peace with the conflict, peace with the confusion, peace with the mess. Forgive ourselves and appreciate that despite all our faults and problems, essentially we are good. We do have good nature. So there is definite hope that we can improve, and we must be friends with ourselves. So back to the self, friends with ourselves. What is this self? You've got a theatre format.
Yes.
Fantastic.
No, I cannot see it.
Who cannot see it?
Anna. Well, it doesn't matter. Go on.
Yeah, hearing it is the important part, and I'll share this link with you later too, Anna. Everyone else can at the moment? Yes, okay. So we'll have to go with the majority, Anna.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Now we are going to look more deeper level of ourself. So normally what we call, there are three sense of self. So first is the unhealthy sense of self, healthy sense of self, and luminous self, or sometimes what we call self beyond self. So there's three. Okay, so now I would like to introduce general level of what are these three sense of self. Unhealthy sense of self, the first is unhealthy sense of self, what we call the self that we perceiving ourselves as what we call permanent, independent, and single, sometimes what we call singularity, independent, and permanent. And these three are actually one. What I telling you is from the different aspect, actually just one. So combine these two together, unhealthy sense of self. But at the same time, what we call this sense of self is also manifestation of wisdom. But we really know full picture of ourselves. If you only fix it with partly, that's the problem. So now second, the healthy sense of self is the opposite of these three. So multiplicity, interdependent, and impermanent. So when we realize these three, the self is connected with these three, that is more healthy, more free, more open, and we can connect with the others more. There's love and compassion, there's awareness, there's wisdom, flexible, creative, quite happy and healthy. So now you will know what is luminous self, right? So luminous self is unhealthy and healthy both combined. So luminous self is not permanent, not impermanent, but it has both quality of permanent, quality of impermanent, like that, all these other three. So then that is the full picture of who we are.
Okay, so I've just got a few slides just
Now
going through. Oh,
we are going to
hang on.
look more
I have to
deeper
find him.
level of ourselves. So normally what we call, there are three sense of.
Okay, it's definitely worth repeating. So I'm just going to go into go through again what Rinpoche was just speaking to. Are you seeing that, unhealthy sense of self? Maybe not.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And welcome to Sue Jeffries. You probably had problems finding the link as well. So well done on getting in.
All good
Unhealthy sense. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was all good.
Okay, you were having your lunch.
No, I was cleaning up.
All right. Sue Jeffries, just so you know, in your little Zoom links here at Windows, Maria and Sue were both at Venerable Rabina's talk at Vajrayana Institute this morning. Okay, so unhealthy sense of self, permanent, independent, and singularity. So recognizing and respecting this suffering, we respond with love. And Rinpoche said this sense of self is a manifestation of wisdom. So when we speak about responding with love, this again is going back to, the armies of loving kindness and compassion that Jitsuma mentions. The recognition of the suffering is really important. We can recognize the grosser levels, but it's about, and this goes into, the Four Noble Truths as well, the different types of suffering. There's the suffering of change, and all pervasive suffering. The very fact that we're born into this at all is, there's just that inevitability. Years ago, I was visiting a men's prison, and one of the units I went into was a psychiatric unit. And I have to admit, I felt very confronted by the space, but I got some amazing teachings in there, really, from the people in there. There was one man who, was literally pacing the yard every day, pacing back and forth, very kind of driven and scary. I was scared of him. I never spoke to him. And I'd been going in every week, but one day he came over to me. He just diverted from his back forth, and he came straight up to me and like leaned in close, and he said to me, "We're all in the desert, and we're all constantly looking for water." He said, "It's just that some of us don't have to walk as far as others to get it." And he said, "But even as we're drinking it, we're already trying to figure out where's the next water coming from." And then off he goes. So, I kind of feel like, I don't know, that we don't know who's a Buddha. We don't know where they are teaching us. And for me, that was an extraordinary teaching on the all-pervasive suffering. But it's that recognition in the first instance, and then respecting what we see. And Mingyur Rinpoche, Sokni Rinpoche, Mingyur Rinpoche's brother, often speaks about that we need to respect this, our relative truth. It's not that we're trying to throw it out, in the sense of disregarding it. And Mingyur Rinpoche, as we move through this too, he says it's all of it together. It's not that we just got to get rid of this bad stuff, just give me the good stuff. It's opening to all of it, respecting it. Because in shutting away and shutting down from it, then we're just guaranteeing that it'll continue. And again, it's arising out of a confusion, and it doesn't have a rational basis. It's just we're in a fog, and we're just adding more fog. If I would highly recommend, if you haven't read it, Mingyur Rinpoche's In Love with the World, where he goes on his wandering retreat. But in all of his talking of his own, he had a severe anxiety attacks, and his father always said to him, "You just need to make friends with your anxiety." And Mingyur Rinpoche said that for years he did attempt to make friends with it, but always on the condition in his mind, and it was subtle, or maybe not so subtle, and I'm sorry to be even, Mingyur Rinpoche, but I'll pretend he's ordinary, but to say that he recognized after some years of practice that he had a hidden agenda of, I'll make friends with you only as long as you go away. So it's that's what we've got to let go of, is the conditionality of, and the judgment and the criticism of, I don't like this, I don't like me, I need this bit gone. Sorry, I'm just letting a few more people in. So then there's the healthy sense of self. As Rinpoche said, multiplicity, interdependent, impermanent. I'll just flick through if you've got any questions at the end. I may not be able to answer it, but we'll flick through. So recognizing our interconnectedness, and again, we respond with love. So I was thinking it's kind of like a swinging door, that the love and compassion is just flowing in and out. Sometimes it goes out, sometimes it comes in, depending on what we connect to and what we recognize. The recognition, whatever we are bringing our awareness to. When we talk about, loving all other beings, and then Trump pops up in our head, it might be that we kind of go, oh, no, can't do that. And so then you just turn the love inwards and go, okay, so what inside here is blocking that? What's stopping me? And you leave him alone and just find where within us the block is, and send in your armies of loving kindness and compassion. And then the luminous self, unhealthy and healthy, both combined. So it's about, yeah, nothing to be thrown away. Nothing, it's that pulling away that just guarantees the unhealthy sense of self to continue. Remembering there's no basis to it. So yes, so the luminous self is love, yeah. So all aspects of the self opening and relating to the full picture of who we are. It's an intimate and a tender relationship. I like the word tender. I feel it's that there's a vulnerability with it as well, and a softness and a willingness to open. And I think it's Mingyur Rinpoche often speaks about ice, water, and gas. It's the same element in different aspects. So the ice is like the unhealthy sense of self, which is solid and cold, and you keep bumping up against it, and it hurts. But it is water, and water again releases into gas. There's nothing that needs, it's all of them. Yeah, so it's all aspects. And a quote from Mingyur Rinpoche: like getting to know a friend, discovering the nature of your mind is a gradual process. Rarely does it occur all at once. The only difference between meditation and ordinary social interaction is that the friend you're gradually coming to know is yourself. And these are representing our beautiful monsters, which Sukni Rinpoche often speaks of, our destructive emotions, our anger, our jealousy, or whatever. They're beautiful monsters. As we turn to them with that love and curiosity and acceptance, that's the beauty. And then they'll take care of themselves, as long as we just don't give up. Don't throw them out. We can't throw them out, but as we turn to face them and just be with them, they'll settle, they'll relax, they'll chill out. Payment children. When we start to meditate or to work with any kind of spiritual discipline, we often think that somehow we're going to improve. So Debbie, I know you were talking about this quote the other day, which is a subtle aggression against who we really are. So this innate goodness is that we're okay. We are okay. It's not we're okay, yeah, but I'm not really. Or there's a Zen master who I think it might be Suzuki Roshi, and the quote is, "You're perfect as you are, and you could do with a little improvement." Oh, somebody else coming in. Welcome to to those of you who just joined, and my apologies for, I don't know what happened with the technical hitch, but well done in getting in. So continuing with Pema Chodron. Loving kindness or Maitri towards ourselves doesn't mean getting rid of anything. It means that we can still be crazy, we can still be angry. This doesn't mean that anyway, I'll leave that alone. It doesn't mean that we exaggerate it or add to it. It's just be with it. We can still be timid or jealous or full of feelings of unworthiness. Meditation practice isn't about trying to throw ourselves away and become something better. It's about befriending who we are already. The ground of practice is you or me or whoever we are right now, just as we are. That's what we come to know with tremendous curiosity and interest. Curiosity involves being gentle, precise, and open. Actually being able to let go and open. Gentleness is a sense of good-heartedness towards ourselves. A precision is being able to see clearly, not being afraid to see what's really there. Openness is being able to let go and to open. When you come to have this kind of honesty, gentleness, and good-heartedness, combined with clarity about yourself, there's no obstacle to feeling loving kindness for others as well. So, I mean, the reverse of that is true as well, is that when we don't have this kind of honesty, gentleness, and good-heartedness combined with clarity about ourselves, then there are obstacles to feeling loving kindness for others. So it all comes back to there's no way around it. We've just got to love ourselves. And yeah, the only way to do that is to know ourselves. Oh, hang on. Francis says, I found myself the other night. It wasn't hard at all. I just had never thought to look for something quite so very small. Oh, that's nice. A Scottish poet. I found myself the other night. It wasn't hard at all. I just had never thought to look for something quite so very small. That's beautiful. Love that. Thanks, Francis. Okay, so I was going to do a meditation on basic goodness, but I think it might be good for you to just have a bit of a break. So let's give it, it's 2:42, so 8 minutes if you come back at whatever that time is for wherever you are. Come back in 8 minutes from your time zone.
Now, and share what the psychiatric patient said to you. I thought that was more than fabulous.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I as I said, Sue,
Deeply moving.
I really did have some incredible teachings from them. I remember another time going in and oh, hang on, just letting somebody in. Yeah, I remember another time going in and I mean, it was a very you know that they built a new psychiatric hospital at Long Bay, and so while I was visiting it was before they'd moved into the new one, and so they were also just letting the place fall apart.
Yeah.
So that didn't help. And it was just this very crowded yard full of a lot of men with who were so they're not prisoners, they're psychiatric. What's the classification, Sue? They're
Governor's pleasures.
say that again?
Governor's pleasures. So they're there until the mental health review tribunal say that they're fit to be released. So in the old terms, it used to be called governor's pleasures. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's quite I mean, for any of you who are familiar with the bardos, that term, for me it felt like walking into bardos. That sense, like they were in a very in between place because they weren't sentenced, and they would have these reviews maybe every 6 months or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and so it would be a board of psychiatrists and social workers and so on coming together to try and make a decision, and they could. It was very common for them not to be able to agree on what should happen, so they would just say, "Oh, let's review it again in 6 months." So they were just sitting in this kind of. It was much worse than a sentence. Yeah. So I do remember, walking in one day, and this was from Venerable Rabina, her, and she said it this morning, I think, we are all insane. It's just a question of degree. From the Buddha's perspective, from enlightenment's perspective, we're insane. And in the sense of delusional, confused, mistaken, believing our karmic appearances. So it's just a question of degree. So that doesn't mean, open all the doors, let everybody out. It's like, all of these structures they have, I mean, not whether they work well or not is another issue. But anyway, that was very much in my mind. We are all insane. It's just a question of degree. And I remember seeing this young man, and just I could see his face, like such pain on his face. It was really heartbreaking. And so I just went over to him and I said to him, we're all insane. It's just a question of degree. And he looked at me and just burst out crying. And he like, he knew it to be true in that moment. And I think that was the single most profound truth that I could carry with me when I went into those places. I had confidence that when I was saying it to them, and I have to hear it for myself. I can say it, but again, it's like it hasn't landed. This is the tricky part of it, is that I can say it and know it to be true when I say it to him, and I could see that the words landed in his innate goodness, and he knew it to be true. And I could see it was like a burden fell away from him in that moment. It'll pop back up again. Our job is to stabilize our insights, but anything that helps, any glimpse, any cutting through, it's all important. Is there any questions just from what we went through with the Mingyur Rinpoche's teaching on the self? Anything from that anybody wants to ask or comment on? Yep, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm unclear how and why the unhealthy sense of self is a manifestation of wisdom. I understand perhaps that if one digs down deep enough, the wisdom will shine, but could you elaborate?
So, as you said, if we dig down deep enough, in its essence, it is wisdom. An analogy, and I think like all of these common analogies are really helpful because we don't get lost in some sort of a philosophical kind of confusion about it. But compost, if we've got a big pile of poop and we're trying to have some sort of a distance, it's stinky, it's smelly, I gotta, find some way to get rid of it, put it into the earth. It'll transform itself. It'll out of that, that image of the lotus, and the lotus grows out of the mud. So because everything isn't solid, permanent, or fixed, because they're not, they're constantly changing, constantly moving. They're all energies, and there are beautiful teachings about wisdom energies. So all of the afflictions, if you think of that analogy too, of like in their form, as they manifest as ice, it manifests as anger, and so we project it outwards, and we see ourselves as separate from our anger, even in our internal landscape. There's we're having reactivity to it, as if it is separate, as if it is solid, as if it is permanent. And as long as we believe that it is solid, separate, and permanent, it will have control over us. It's our belief in it. But the turning towards it, in its essence, as you said, if we go deep down into it, in its essence, it's free of that. It is a wisdom energy. It can be transformed. It's just a constant movement. Does that make sense? It's a very slow process that we have to do, but yeah, please.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes, it does make sense. And these sessions in these past few days have also opened up a little aha for me, in that so many of my beautiful monsters, which I don't quite see as beautiful at the moment, but I'll work hard at it, are really responses to my fears, to my vulnerabilities, and that's really helped me move a tiny nano step towards accepting.
Okay, lovely. Because all of them are attempts. And the meditation we'll do now is just a recognition of that. Every movement that we're making, even if, I'm going to be gross, give a really gross example. If I kill somebody, it's because I thought I would be happy by killing that person. or that I was avoiding suffering, you know. So even it's in its essence, it's an attempt to be happy or to be free of suffering, arising out of our innate goodness. But the confusion and the like, whether it's going to achieve our aims or not, that's a really important question. And that's going back to the 5 remembrances of like your actions are the only sure thing, and it's the intention behind the action is the that's what's going to get carried through. So again, it's I guess if we can just stop running from ourselves, stop running from. I mean, and I think again, I think it's Venerable Rubina says like that the energy of the ego, of this solid, separate, permanent sense of it's fear. That's its energy. That's its. So it's just turning towards and another analogy I really love is like we're like little kids who are huddled up hiding under the bedclothes and because there's a monster under the bed. And as long as we stay hiding under the covers, the monster has complete control over us. But if we go, okay, I'm going to just get out and have a look at it. Get out of the bed, pull the covers back, look under the bed, see what it looks like up close. That's befriending it. And it takes phenomenal amounts of courage. Anything else? Anybody? Shall we meditate? Yeah, I mean, when I go into the prison, I have to tell people to study, reflection, and meditation, always on the go. Yes. I'd tell the inmates, can you just remind me that I'm here to. We're actually meant to be meditating, because I would just talk all the way through. So you're allowed to do that as well. Send me a message and going, can we please meditate? So we're going to meditate. And this is a practice on, as I was just saying, just noticing, like as I just moved now. I just moved on my chair, and so all of that is arising out of a very quick impulse. It starts off very subtly. It's like, I'm uncomfortable, I need to get comfortable. So that's wishing. It's all, every movement is the wish to be happy, the wish to be free of suffering. And all of that is the reason that we're constantly wanting to be happy, constantly wanting to be free of suffering, is because they're just expressions of our capacity to be happy, to be free of suffering. It's arising out of our basic goodness. If you think of it like it's our GPS that's just constantly trying to get us back on track. And again, the wisdom aspect is what's necessary for us to get precise, so that we do get the result that we are looking for in every nanosecond. So just checking again that you're sitting comfortably, that your back is straight, and allowing the muscles to be relaxed. And again, just bringing your attention into your body, just becoming aware of the ground beneath you, feeling the gravity and the weight of your body as you sit. And just allowing the mind to be open and present with whatever is arising, whatever is appearing to your senses. So just imagining like being in a house with the windows open and the wind blowing through. Just letting it all move through. But neither are you distracted or lost in thought. Just letting all that, just be spacious with it all. And just see if you can notice any impulses that are arising in your mind and body. Just noticing as you respond to whatever is arising. It might be wanting to move or reacting to a thought or feeling or emotion that's coming up. Whatever you notice, here just recognizing that each passing impulse is an expression of your basic goodness. Your GPS, seeking true and lasting happiness. Just allowing it to arise, nothing to change, nothing to fix. Just noticing and recognizing all of these impulses. Holding it all in a spacious awareness. And don't worry if you get lost. Just when you notice that you've been distracted, just bring your awareness back to the present moment. And again, just letting your mind relax into open awareness, not needing to focus on anything in particular. Just letting your mind be as natural as possible. Okay. So I wanted to play the very short video with the Surgeon General and Father Greg Boyle. So this quote is from Father Greg Boyle: "Kindness is the only thing that isn't delusional." So I'd mentioned yesterday that Father Greg is, hang on, I have to, sorry, I just got to click on this to open it. And if you can hear the vacuum cleaner in the background, that's after Venerable Ravina's teachings. Joseph, who makes all the lovely chocolates that I was eating yesterday, is now hoovering. He's vacuuming out there, cleaning up after the teachings. So, Father Greg Boyle. Yeah, so Father Greg Boyle is a Catholic priest who works with gangs in Los Angeles, and he has set up something called Homeboy Industries, which I would highly recommend you to Google. He does wonderful work. And he says things like, don't go to the margins to change people. Go to the margins so that they can change you. So this is him speaking about kindness. Oh, hang on, I have to unmute this. You can see him? Yep, you're looking at Father Greg Boyle and the US Surgeon General?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And there's subtitles on this too, if it helps.
Life, I was a chaplain at Folsom Prison, and I remember the prisoners always, when they would speak of the guards, and the guards, when they spoke of the prisoners, they would say, "I don't want them to mistake my kindness for weakness." Well, when we move beyond the mind we have, we discover that kindness is the only strength there is. And in fact, kindness is the only non-delusional response to everything, which is to say every other response is delusional. Our rage, our anger, our annoyance, our impatience, and then you catch yourself and you say, that's right, kindness is the only thing that isn't delusional, I don't think anybody who's ever tried it on for size doesn't find it to be the source of strength. And so ventilating the world with kindness and tenderness, it's the only way that your love can no longer stay in your heart or your head or the ether. It becomes connective tissue.
Life is short and it's fragile. Ellen DeGeneres has shockingly broken her silence on ex-girlfriend Anne Heche's death. The details behind the former couple's dramatic...
because it was on Facebook. So no, that was about Ellen DeGeneres. I just find that teaching, I love it. I find it so profound. When Father Greg says, when we go beyond the mind, that we, I don't know what exactly he said, but I in my mind it's like when we go beyond that limited sense, that mind, that separate, unhealthy sense of self that I believe to be true. When we go beyond that, kindness is the only response, the only non-delusional response. And so that statement too, again, is clearly pointing to the wisdom aspect. It's not just about being nicer, because we have to, again, examine what's underpinning the being nice. You know, our attachments, again, Venerable Brina speaks about particularly our attachment to my internet just dropped out there. Can you hear me? I'm back. The internet just dropped out.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I think it was just as I was talking about attachment to reputation, which is a big one for me. What do they all think about me? And it's like, well, boom, we're all just going to disappear now. So I was left with my own thoughts. And as Venerable Urbina was saying to us this morning, we're not comfortable about just, no, someone's got to hear my thoughts. Somebody's got to, otherwise they're not worth anything. And you all disappeared off the screen just as I was reveling in my own thoughts. So that's good, thank you. And so yeah, the only non-delusional response is kindness. And also he said, was it love is the connective tissue? Yeah, going back to us being social animals. So that's our connectivity. So we're coming to the end, and I just wanted to see, is there any questions apart from why didn't we do more meditation? Why didn't I get the Eventbrite sorted out? A quote from Rumi: your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Any questions? Yep, Jessica, please go ahead.
Venerable Aileen, thank you so much for this weekend. It really has been so special. The learning's blowing my mind. I did just have one thing that kind of I keep coming back to, and I wondered if you had techniques for, was ways to be curious about things that are arising when you meditate. Is there any sort of like questions that you should ask yourself, or how can you sort of show curiosity? Like what do we sort of say when we're showing curiosity to things that are arising as we meditate?
Okay. So I guess maybe, you know, I mean, there are many different techniques, and I'll think of loads of them after we're finished our session. And I could send you maybe some links later. But what comes to mind for me now, I guess, is I just had the thought to ask ourselves, okay, there it is, yeah, the thing, it's turned up. And so in that moment, the recognition of it is already, we're already ahead of the game. If we just go, oh, there it is. And then our willingness to just rest with it, not do anything with it, but just to, I mean, the term intimate, to be intimate with it. It feels intolerable, I would say. It feels like, I've got to get rid of it. I've got to do something. No, I've got to do something, but just be with it. And you could do a little scan through the body and see how is it showing up in the body. Because, and again, Venerable Rabina was talking about this morning, that like our feelings, our emotions, she was saying that it's really only when it gets to that level that we actually notice that there's a problem. And that's at that level, it's like so it's been happening so many times that it's kind of like we're literally embodying it. And so it's like it's shouting at us. So when we notice it's like, oh, there it is. Then it's just noticing what sensations are associated with it in the body. How's it showing up? Tightness in the chest. I can feel heat. I can feel, almost like I've got to get out of my chair. And I mean, I'm describing how I am around chocolate biscuits. There's this compulsion, get there, move in, like I got to close that distance really quickly. So I do notice that sometimes I notice if I'm speeding up to close the gap between me and my desired object, I go, oh, let's see how that's showing up.
Amazing. Yeah.
So it's just, it's a curiosity. And also it's important, I would say too, that we start with things that aren't big triggers. Yeah. And so if we are aware, like if there is something really big that's coming up in our meditation and coming up regularly, I mean, Mingyur Rinpoche talks about, taking a break. Or I mean, you could also sort of hone in on it, but you got to be skillful as well with what you're ready for.
So true. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else?
Oh, maybe in the chat.
Okay. Oh yeah. Thank you. Nandita, I'm so sorry, really. I don't know what happened. Could you please give a brief recap of the first hour? Let's see who'd like to do that. Who's what did we cover? I read a poem on kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must know that sorrow is also. I don't remember the words exactly, but I'll share that poem in the chat or in the resources page that we'll share. We did the 5 remembrances. We sent everybody off into breakout rooms, and that took up some of the time. I told a few stories about prison. Other people were also struggling to get in, so there was some delay as well, so that took up some time also. Anybody else want to say anything on that? Someone's asked me, can I talk a bit about attachment to reputation? So an example of it, Venerable Rabina says, the yogi up the mountain, the last thought is, I wonder what they think about me down in the village. So yeah, that's our attachment to reputation. I mean, you can notice it, like we're yearning to be accepted. We're yearning to be told that we're okay because we don't believe we're okay. So we're constantly looking, and because we don't believe that we're okay, and as long as our reputation is something that we have invested in, it's our ego that's just hungry. It's that phrase, a bottomless pit of neediness. And so as long as we believe ourselves to be separate, then we will always always be looking for approval, because we don't trust and we don't have confidence that we're okay. So I'll be looking, I'll be checking, is someone, oh, she's nodding, I'm okay, I'm on track. And if you kind of pull back and went, I'm not sure what she's talking about now, I'd oh, quickly, I've got to adjust, I'm starting to lose her, she's starting to, and so, you know, it's literally like, as long as we have attachment, aversion, and ignorance, through those filters, we can only see friend, enemy, stranger. And it's like, it's a constant, it'll never, ever, this is dualistic mind, this constant cycle. So I'm literally scanning and watching and going, friend, enemy, stranger, friend, enemy, stranger. And I'll keep trying to adjust to keep you friend, keep her friend, keep her friend. Yeah. So it's that, it's like, it's intolerable for us to be disliked. What's the name of the Tagore poem you read yesterday? Actually, I don't know, Manya. I took it off the internet, but maybe does anybody here know? I have got it in the resources page, but I only put in the extract. No mud, no lotus. Gratitude, Stornetta, lovely to have you here. Yeah. Yep, no need to be a practicing Buddhist, be a kinder human being. That's absolutely what it's all about. Dorji Lama, the first meditation, I don't know. I don't think I'd hit the recording button. That was a meditation we did on cultivating, well, yeah, I would say guru devotion. Okay, there's other things here, but we're running out of time. Mind you, we started late too. Okay, Jitsuma often says that our daily life is practice. When I consider this, I start feeling guilty or selfish about taking time out just practice, and the reading, meditating kind of practice takes a back seat. How do I reconcile? Yeah, Saransh, this is also, you know, Jitsuma spoke to it too, about we need to breathe in and breathe out. And being with our family, being with, being in relationship with other people, this also is practice. So it's about recognize. I mean, the formal practice is important for sure, but it's also, and Venerable Jitsuma spoke to it last night too. It's like yeast in dough. So we can take that little, those periods of practice into our daily life, but just be careful with your mind when how you're judging what is practice and what isn't practice. It's a very common thing, and I remember catching myself. I literally had this slogan in my mind when something would step in front of me that was annoying me. My mind would say, "Get out of my way, can't you see I'm trying to practice?" That's deluded. So it's softening all of those perceived separate, is this practice, isn't this practice? Like, as long as we have a mind, as long as we're aware, as long as we're breathing, we can practice. So and again, Jetsuma said this in relation to the mind training in general. She said it's really about changing our attitude. So we can be in relationship, we can be in the world, we can be always available to, like, as the triggers come up in response to relationships, we can go, oh, so what's that one? What's happening? You know, again, turning that curiosity to what is that resistance that I'm feeling. So it doesn't mean not to do the formal practice. That is very valuable and important, but also just let it flow, be okay with it. And even rejoicing, you know, rejoicing in the fact that there are people up the mountains in their doing 2, 3, 4, 5 years long full retreat. The more that we can rejoice in what others are doing in that sense of formal practice, or anything, just rejoicing in general, that again starts to remove that feeling of but I don't have it, I can't do it. How, you know, it softens that conflict that we have. The 8 worldly concerns, yes, thank you, Smitha. That sums up everything to do with attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Unending Love by Tagore. Thank you, Sujit. Monya, you asked for that. Can you repeat the thing about how everything is the arising of innate goodness, trying to be happy? Because we are innately good, then everything is arising from that. Is that okay? Again, it's about, if you think of it like the GPS, it's about, we need to get, like it is, everything is about trying to be happy, to be free of suffering. And then we need to have that discerning wisdom of going, yeah, but is it bringing me the result that I'm after? Again, that being able to discriminate between, and the discriminative capacity is itself innate goodness as well. Discerning between delusions and virtues. So, you know, it's that important thing too. It's like, I mean, we do have a whole bunch of karmic backload that's just going to pour out all sorts of negative stuff. The important thing is how we respond to it. That's what will, like, it is beginningless, but it can end. And it's as long as we don't keep feeding more confused responses to it. The family have left the washing on the line. I'm tired, but then I think, say, I must be of benefit to all sentient beings, including my family. Oh yeah, including your family. Why not? And you know, Ram Dass says, if you want to find out how enlightened you are, go and spend a week with your family. It only takes me a weekend. Okay, so the poem from Tagore was originally titled Ananta Prem. Beautiful, thank you. And I read somewhere where they were saying that the translations into English are like looking at a tapestry from the back. Okay, I think we'll finish. That's nice. His Holiness Dalai Lama says, if you think you've divested yourself of self-cherishing, see what happens when someone accuses you of something you didn't do. Yeah. I didn't do that. And you know, I did have this slide, but I didn't put it up. You know that beauty, I don't know if you've seen that image of the Buddha, just before his enlightenment, and Mara was attacking with the army. And I mean, first sent all these beautiful women and did all sorts of things to try and distract the Buddha. And then there's that image of Mara appearing. And Mara, you can just take as our, you know, it's a personification of our blah, 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 our confused, deluded minds. And so the army of sending in, like, literally arrows and so on to try and attack the Buddha. And as they approached, from the Buddha sending out loving kindness, his army of loving kindness and compassion, the image is painted, it's like all of these flowers coming, or transforming all the swords into flowers as they reached into that space. Forgotten why I mentioned that now. Don't know. But it's nice. Maybe we'll end on that. So thank you all. It's been, yeah, I'm very glad. They say, you teach best what you most need to learn. I have to qualify that by going, eventually, I will teach it well. And I'm really grateful for for you allowing me to pop up in front of you and blunder my way through it. And I hope I haven't harmed, you know, I mean, really, please just remember what you heard from Jetsunma and Venerable Robina, and may we always be.
I would like to say a very, very deep gratitude to you, Venerable Aileen Barry, and to both our special guests who are great beings, Jetsunma and Venerable Robina Kutin, for an absolutely incredible, inspiring, thought-provoking and inspirational weekend. There are not enough words for me to say thank you to you. Having said that, I will start with a thank you, especially to you for being an amazingly fantastic host. I don't have enough words to describe the ease, the tenderness, and the grace with which you handled all the obstacles that came up this weekend. Also, I want to say a special thank you to Zoom, by the way, and for all those who created Zoom, which is truly the silver lining of COVID. Whoever would have thought that thanks to COVID, we would discover an interactive forum to connect with everyone from around the world.
Yeah.
A deep bow and special thank you to each of you for allowing and showing up and for being here this weekend, for all your questions, for your doubts, for your patience, and for your kind and generous participation. And I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the entire Thosamling team, without whose support and help this event would not have taken place. Venerable Sangmo here, who has been running around all weekend and found the time to come to say thank you to all of you. Our director and abbess, without whom we would not have this nunnery. Venerable Tenzin-la, our accountant, part-time receptionist. See, she's the one who patiently responds to all your emails. Saheli, the director of our little film. Venerable Thosamling, who is the heroine of our film, a young nun, delightful nun from Australia, and the rest of the Sangha. And a big thank you to our Indian staff, especially for all they do to keep the nunnery functioning in a very healthy, beautiful way. And for our 2 dogs and cat who give us all the emotional support we need.
Your therapy animals.
Please do check our website, www.thosamling.com, for a complete list of our programs, including our wish list. And also we do have a YouTube channel where all the recordings will be put in, hopefully by the end of this coming week. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us by sending us an email at thosamling@gmail.com. And we hope to see you at Thosamling Nunnery very soon, a place of listening and reflection that manifested due to the vision, great vision and vast vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So sadhu, 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 wishing you each the very best, long life, good health, well-being, and much happiness, and hope to keep seeing you soon. Bye.
We need to dedicate all of that. All of that.
Thank you very much, everybody, to come to this event. And Aileen, Robina, it was really great. Thank you so much.
Wishing you
give it very short.
Long life and good health to you, Sunma Sangmalo, and to everybody at Thosamling and everybody from around the world. And let's dedicate all of the merit that we have created through being together and being in the presence of such wonderful teachers of Jetsunma and Venerable Robina, and in each other's company, because we really are bringing each other home. And our innate goodness, our luminous self, who we really are, this is our ultimate refuge. And so with deep gratitude and holding our hearts open to all beings everywhere, to whom we are deeply, intimately connected, that we may walk each other home as quickly as possible and never be separated from our precious teachers, that they can continue to help us to recognize who we really are. So thank you all.
Thank you, Aileen.
Thank you very much, Aileen. Everybody else
Susan.
enjoyed the weekend.
Very good. Lovely, Susan. And we must catch up sometime. Yeah.
We must.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.